that brings us to today's electric moment, brought to you by Hyundai. The closing seconds of overtime here. Gets the ISO on Giannis Antetokounmpo, drives to the rim. Hey, no Brook Lopez on the floor. There's no rim protection there.
Exactly. I mean, just the moxie on this guy. And I know a lot of the players voted him overrated. Well, that was motivation when it mattered most.
A little bit of Kobe Bryant-esque, right, with that capital T-H-A-T, overrate that. And that would be all she wrote here. The Indiana Pacers, they hang on in overtime. Again, spectacular night for Gary Trent Jr. It just wasn't quite enough. Indiana gets the 1-point win to close out the series. And John Halliburton, Tyrese's dad, clearly excited, showed his emotions maybe a little bit too much.
Understatement.
Gets in Giannis's face, chatting a little. We all have personal relationships with John. He's a really proud dad, but this just went a hair too far.
Yeah, out-of-body experience. I was out of pocket, unnecessary, and just unacceptable. I'm glad there was an apology.
Here's Giannis, what he had to say about that post-game dust-up.
Coming in the floor and showing me his son a towel with his face. This is what we do. This is what we effing do. This is the F we do. This. I feel like that's very, very disrespectful.
I think it's the emotions of the game just got excited there. But I talked with him. I'll talk with Giannis eventually about it. Just, I don't think that my pops was in the right at all there. And unfortunate, what happened in the end there. But, I mean, this series was a lot of war of words, a lot of war of antics, a lot of stuff going back and forth. And that's just part of, this rivalry and what we've built here over the last couple of years.
So Tyrese Halliburton was just with our colleague on the Pat McAfee show saying he has talked to Giannis since then. And also John Halliburton, he took to social media to apologize here. He said, I sincerely apologize to Giannis, the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Pacers organization for my actions following tonight's game. This was not a good reflection on our sport or my son, and I will not make that mistake again. So welcoming in our senior reporter here, Brian Windhorst, NBA champ Kendrick Perkins. Brian, there's so much to dissect from this game last night, but your biggest takeaway from this Pacers-Bucks game is what?
The takeaway needs to be how great Tyrese Halliburton was. Nothing with his dad, which was unfortunate. But my gosh, he made 3 enormous baskets in this game. Not even fitting into our highlight was the dunk that he made that was the basket that forced overtime.
Yeah.
His outside shot wasn't falling. He went to the basket, was able to get that big hoop. Then you just showed the 2 plays in overtime. As Chene said, one going left, one going right. The thing that gets me, they had this out of bounds play for the last possession. They brought Pascal Siakam up. They chose to put Giannis onto Tyrese. The way they set the play, I asked Rick Carlisle, I said, did you seriously want Giannis on Tyrese for this last basket, down 1? And he said it wasn't about the matchup. It was about us and me trusting Tyrese to make a play, and make a play he did. To me, this is a story about Tyrese Halliburton, regardless of what anybody says about overrated, elevating his team and taking a game that was a loss in an elimination opportunity. That's a huge moment for him.
Well, the Bucks did play a part in it, Wendy, and let me dive into a little bit of my Brian Windhorst here. I don't want to hear the whole Doc Rivers fault thing. It's the cool thing to say, right? Like, oh, blame Doc Rivers. This is on the hands of Doc. No, it's not. The players for the Milwaukee Bucks lost this game on the floor. We saw the turnovers down the stretch, right? Can Doc Rivers go on the floor and actually catch the ball for Gary Trent Jr.? Did Doc Rivers make the turnover when Gary Trent Jr.? No, the golden rule is to not get trapped in the corner. By the way, Giannis Antetokounmpo, we give him so much praise, and rightfully so. The last possession of the game, you can't get down in the defensive stance and keep a guy in front of you, and just to make to force him to take a tough contested 2 or a contested 3. Again, I just get tired of hearing like, oh, the Doc Rivers. Now, Doc Rivers in the past, yes, you could blame him, but Doc Rivers for this meltdown that the Bucks had, this goes on the players that was performing on the floor.
Well, and now the questions begin, right, about Giannis and his future with the Bucks. Here's what he had to say, or rather not to say, about whether he can win another championship, he believes, in Milwaukee.
Look, I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do this. I know how this going to, whatever I say, I know how it's going to translate. I don't know, man. I wish I was still playing. I wish I was still competing and going back to Milwaukee. I don't know.
All right, well, one person who will speak on the Bucks' future is our front office insider, Bobby Marks here. We know, Bobby, that this roster, as currently constructed, it's just not good enough. So what can Milwaukee do this summer?
Yeah, Malika, the offseason, when you lose, is asking about hard questions. And there's two hard questions that Giannis and the Bucks are going to ask. For Giannis, it's how does this roster get better? And then if it's Milwaukee, do we need to pivot from Giannis? And here's why. When you're looking at, there are three things to keep an eye on. It's the health of Damian Lillard. He's owed $54 million next year. He's got another $58 million after that. He's likely going to be out an extended period of time. The second thing is their draft assets. They have no first-round pick this year. They have one tradable first-round pick in 2031 or 2032. And then the third thing is their future free agents this offseason. They created financial flexibility when they moved Chris Middleton for Kyle Kuzma. That flexibility is probably now earmarked towards Gary Trent Jr., Bobby Portis, Brook Lopez, Taurean Prince, Kevin Porter Jr., Pat Connaughton, all free agents here. And eventually, Malika, the cycle ends and you run out of options. And unfortunately, I think the time has ended in Milwaukee here with Giannis on this roster.
Well, because 3 straight seasons here being eliminated in the first round. So, Chiney, as a player, knowing that they have not been quite good enough, where do you think the Milwaukee Bucks and Giannis Antetokounmpo should go from here?
As a player, you have to evaluate a lot. But when I think of Giannis Antetokounmpo, he is one of the NBA's greatest heavyweights. He is someone that plays with dominance and also tremendous talent. He's a walking 30 and 12 on 60% shooting. So when I said heavyweight for a reason, because when it comes to this decision, I'm really split. It's like a split decision because, one, Giannis is an extremely loyal guy. He's a guy that you can see has made roots in Milwaukee and has built this franchise up after a period and also delivered a championship. I don't see anything truly indicating that he wants to go, but still you have to think, because, two, you know, there's a cost to loyalty. Sometimes you look at your teammate Dame Lillard and maybe you think, okay, Dame, he was known as a loyal guy for so long. You don't want to wait too long before you make a decision to go elsewhere to maximize your competitive prime. Giannis is 30 years old. If the time were to be any time, it's right now to make a decision to go. But still, he's still showing signs that he cares dearly about Milwaukee.
Absolutely.
I would advise Giannis, and that's a great point, Shanae, but I would advise Giannis to go listen to Kevin Garnett Hall of Fame speech, where he said he wished he would have been in a Celtic uniform sooner, meaning he held on to being a Minnesota Timberwolves too long. Playing for the Minnesota Timberwolves too long. And if I'm Giannis, I'm in my prime. Look, you done everything in the world for this organization, delivered the championship, right? Made this city relevant, made the city money, right? No one is going to be upset with you if you decide to leave on, which I think is the best decision for him. But again, my whole thing is Giannis just needs to really sit down, evaluate, because it's hard getting drafted by an organization. This becomes your home, so it's hard. His next decision, whatever it may be, if he decides to leave, which I think he will or should,